and on the day of Holi, we are having with us C.A. Manoj Shah, who is going to teach us on the union budget. What was your expectation from budget?
Be better.
To be better. So this is not better?
Not for the civilians.
Okay. So that Manoj bhai will tell whether it is better or not. And he will take us through the process of making a budget, GDP, various terminology used, inflation, little bit about that. So, and we are also having a essay competition. How many of you have enrolled for that? 2, 3? Okay, 4. So, on 9th of March, this Monday, we have arranged a meeting for the students who have enrolled for the essay on the topic mechanics of essay writing. So this will definitely help you how to write an essay. And it is a writing a skill which definitely help you as a chartered accountant. Because as a chartered accountant, what you are going to do? Making an audit report, making a representation before authorities, or giving an opinion. All this require a good writing skill. So essay is the best thing to improve your writing skill. So, and it is free for the members or students who have enrolled for the essay competition. So they can attend 4:30 to 6 at chamber office. Now I request Kishore bhai to introduce today's speaker, Manoj Shah.
Sri Manoj Shah, Chartered Accountant of 1987, is a founder partner of the firm Shah & Modi Chartered Accountants. His focus areas of practice are exchange control regulations, international taxation and transfer pricing. He is past president of this Chamber of Tax Consultants. He is past president of CVO CA Association. He contributes to FEMA Update column of newsletter published by Western India Regional Council and makes similar contribution to the journal published by ICAI also. His contribution to publications of various organizations include NRI Taxation in BCA's Referencer, International Taxation, a compendium published by the Chamber of Tax Consultants, FEMA in Referencer of WRC of 2011, Referencer on FEMA, a publication of ICAI, and so many other in the list. He has delivered talks on FEMA and NRI taxation at various forums all across India. With these words and small introduction, I will request Sri Manish bhai to hand over to the speaker, Sri Manoj Shah, memento in token of our please applaud. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Chairman Manish Gadia and dear friend Kishore and boys and girls. Actually, I am really pleased to be amongst you, even though we are very small in numbers, but what I propose to, as they say, that precious things comes in a small packing. Diamond doesn't require huge packing, right? So let's make this session very interactive, and even I have learned few things while preparing for the same, and I wish that, let it not be a monologue, but not one too many, let it be one to one. So, and whatever your doubts are, try to raise this. If I am able to solve it, will be my pleasure. Otherwise, we both will research while going home. As Manish bhai said, that you also talk about process making of budget, or what budget is and what are the terms. Let's look at the Indian economy. When Manish bhai asked the question, what is your expectation or what was your feeling about the budget or reaction to the budget, and he said that probably it is not as good as one would have expected. Now look at the circumstances since June 2014 or May 2014 when this NDA government took over, and in the last 8 to 9 months probably India is in the sweet spot, as they call it, in the world economy. BRICS nation, all of you are aware, right? So amongst BRICS also, now what remains is only India. China's dependence or growth was absolutely export oriented, which is because of the world economy not faring well, Europe and USA, it is because its exports are not picking up. So growth in China, which was double digit growth in terms of economy year after year, is not expecting. Brazil is absolutely, because of internal issues, it is also not picking up. Russia, oil prices are down and political crisis is there. Similarly is the case with South Africa because of huge corruption. So today India, for the world investor, is like FMCG. Everybody is wanting to be in India. This is the only economy left which has potential to go much faster. And look at the luck factor for this NDA government or Modi or Jaitley, whatever you say. We have had the best of factors, the oil prices coming down, right, from 110 per barrel to going up to almost 45, 50, and now it is stabilizing at around 60. India is importing its requirement of oil to the tune of 80%. So you have natural reduction in price to control your inflation. Where there was tug of war between government and Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank was saying that we will not reduce the interest rate, which would have benefited industrialists to bring its interest cost down. And therefore inflation is naturally coming down because of reduction in oil prices. And even other commodities, metals, all, be it zinc or steel or a lot of metals are at lowest price, and therefore it is helping India to control inflation. So you have inflation which is coming down. Then you introduce Jan Dhan Yojana, and you have linked it with Aadhaar card, and you are also trying to link it with mobile phone. So all subsidy transfer, though they are calling it JAM Trinity. If you look at the budget, JAM, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile link direct benefit transfer, DBT. Now what is DBT? Those who are needy and poor Indian population, they use it whatever for their daily requirements of food grains is there, and even to some extent kerosene or oil, whatever you call it, is being supplied through rationing shops. So these rationing shops are nothing but kind of subsidy. The food grain which would otherwise be available at higher prices in the normal market, you will be getting at cheap prices through rationing. So it is nothing but subsidizing. Now what is this going to do, this direct DBT as they call it? The DBT would mean that probably a family of 4 is likely to get around 6,000 rupees a year. 5,800, that was the amount which was declared in Economic Times as I recollect. So around 6,000 rupees a year is the amount which will be directly credited from government to individual bank account, the head of the family, say for example. And then he has a liberty to spend on whatever he wants. There's a big shift. Because of corruption and leakages in the system, the rations shop, by the time food grains or other commodities which used to reach till the shop, there was a lot of corruption and leakages and pilferages, therefore the real benefit was not accruing. Now this effect of 6,000 into some huge number of in crores, the bank accounts are in crores, the population is 125 crores. So say for example even 15 to 20,000 crore families or something like that, the amount when it is being credited, the recipient of this amount is not going to spend only on food grains. They also have their aspirations in the family, the children. They are going to spend on, say, for footwear, for clothes, for beauty parlor, whatnot. And don't laugh, it is likely to happen, right? So the point is that it will propel demand. It is going to give huge boost to the demand, and that is what is expected. So this is the background in which probably there was huge expectation that this budget is going to be like budget of 1991. Let me take you to history of 1991, probably because we have witnessed that. 1991 was a year when the then finance minister, ex-prime minister and the then finance minister Sardar Manmohan Singh, he was made finance minister by P.V. Narasimha Rao on the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi. And the gold reserves or the foreign exchange reserves for India were absolutely at low level. And it was a time when India had to mortgage its gold reserves to borrow foreign exchange. As I told you, 80% of India's oil is imported. So naturally you need foreign exchange to make payment for oil. And the reserves of foreign exchange were hardly enough for importing gold, oil up to say 1 month. So beyond 1 month requirement, we had no foreign exchange reserve. And this was the time when in 1991 it was a radical budget, because what happened was that we started liberalizing Indian economy. Now what do you mean by liberalizing Indian economy? Liberalizing Indian economy would mean that we opened up our economy on capital account. That means that we state that we are opening our Indian economy and non-resident, the foreigners can invest in India. When I say invest in India means I am opening up my economy on capital account. That is what China had done in 1979. What China did, the motive of China while opening up its economy was a bit different. China had huge population, they are still ahead and they were also ahead, but the intention in China when they opened up their economy was to create create employment. And with that intention they opened up the economy. When I say I am opening up an economy, I would say that you come and invest and you own the business in India. You need not have, either you want partnership is doable, you can own the business, and that is what is capital account. Because you will be listening to capital account convertibility, you will be aware of you would have learned the concept as current account deficit and capital account. What is this current and capital account? Anybody is aware here? What is current account deficit and what is capital account transaction?
Usually capital account is that whatever cash or any currency that is invested in the form of a fixed assets in India. And like in current account is usually whatever the recurring payments or anything, payments or the income that is.
To some extent what you are saying is right, but let me explain the concept. When you look at foreign exchange transaction, there are two concepts of current account and capital account, and that is where it comes from. So current account is a transaction where when the transaction is over, be it anything, cross-border transaction, once the transaction is over, either resident will have no liability or assets overseas, or non-resident will have no liability or assets in India. I will repeat again. Say for example, I am importing a machinery. Okay, I have imported a machinery. I have remitted the payment to foreign supplier. Okay, so transaction is over. Neither after the import is done, I don't have to pay anything to them, nor they have to receive anything, nor they have created any assets in India, non-resident. Are you getting me? So for accounting perspective, import of machinery would be capital account transaction. But from FEMA perspective or economic perspective of current and capital account understanding, it is a current account transaction. A transaction which does not create assets and liabilities overseas for resident, or transaction which does not create assets and liabilities for non-resident in India is a current account transaction. Therefore, when Suzuki and Maruti came together and they formed 50-50 joint venture of Maruti Suzuki, it's a capital account transaction. Hero Honda is a capital account transaction because Honda and Hero, Munjaz, they formed a JV and they say, I will own certain equity in India. Therefore, non-resident has created assets in India. Okay. In the very example of import of machinery, if I am importing that machine on hire purchase basis or on loan basis, installment basis, and my installments are spread over 5 years, it's a capital account transaction. So when I import a machinery, I pay 25% down payment, and if my 75% which is due is payable in the next 3 years, it becomes a capital account transaction because I have created a liability in foreign exchange. Mind well, liability in foreign exchange. What will happen? On the first anniversary of my import payment, I'll have to go to my banker and request banker, give me foreign exchange. My payment is due. Banker is obliged, Reserve Bank is obliged to honor that commitment, and they will make me payment and then I'll remit. So there is a liability or asset which is created. Similarly, India said that now we are opening on capital account, and that's what China did. And the world economy that is how it started revolving. Today you will find that entire world's production is in China because they have opened their economy on capital account. They said whatever you want to manufacture, come here. We have still got restrictions so far as foreign investment is concerned on retail. Today still we are grappling with full-fledged retail business in India is still not open to foreign investment, right? But China it is not so. China it is not so. From day one they are opened up. In India we are not. There are political issues or whatever you call it. So we are still restricted in some of the businesses, but otherwise we are on a large scale basis, we are fully opened up. So what is happening? Our current account deficit. What do you mean by current account deficit? My import of goods and services as a India, vis-a-vis my export of goods and services, there is a shortfall. There is a shortfall. And how this shortfall is met? The shortfall is met out of capital account inflows. So we are short on our export of goods and services because our major import is oil, gold, diamond, Another, now it is telecommunication, the mobile phones. The mobile phone is the biggest imports. It is estimated that electronic gadgets import will exceed other commodities. Maybe oil will still remain on the top space, but second and third commodities may be in excess of gold. There is so much luster and lust for electronic gadgets that we are really importing. So the point is that our imports are higher, our exports are short. Therefore, there is a deficit in foreign exchange. This deficit in foreign exchange is financed out of again inflows, but inflows are on capital account. Capital account inflows means what? Investment by way of equity, foreign participation, which is equity participation is again of two types. Equity participation is again of two types. One is called portfolio investment, other is called direct investment. So when you say portfolio investment, all these investments by FII are nothing but portfolio, whatever is coming to stock market, because they pump in money, and you would find that whenever there is stock market, there is a boom of say today 300 or 400 points, the dollar will come down. Rupee and dollar rate, you will find that 50 paise, 75 paise, 1 rupee depends on the movement. But whenever there is a boom on stock market, that means FII have pumped in dollar. There is a pressure on rupee will appreciate. When they pull out money, it will go up. The point is, capital inflows are of two types. One is portfolio and one is called direct investment, foreign direct investment, that is FDI. Right? So all these FDI, like for example, which I gave you of Hero Honda or Maruti Suzuki or now even Rolls Royce, or for example, defense sector is opened up and defense sector is likely to invite capital from foreigners, so that will become foreign direct investment. The difference between foreign direct investment and portfolio investment is that in case of portfolio investment, I am merely an investor. I would not like to have a management say. I will not occupy a board member. I will not become board. I am not interested in what company is doing, in the sense, in terms of controlling management. But if I am a foreign direct investor, I will see that I will get a seat on the board. Like for example, Hero Honda. And when they had disputes, they parted the way. But there is quite possible that company in India may be foreign owned. For example, HDFC Bank. Today it is a foreign company because so much of FIIs are owning this stock that it is in management, and Indian population is holding less than what foreigners are holding. But none of the foreigners are interested in occupying board position in HDFC Bank. So it remains to be an Indian company, but otherwise owned foreign majority. So portfolio investor would not like to have any say in management. It is only that they would hold for investment purpose. And therefore this is called speed money, quick money, speculative money, because stock market is a place where money can come quickly and go quickly. And that's where China, when they opened up, and where India opened up, there was a difference. What China did was, China opened up their foreign direct investment sector very rapidly, very rapidly. From day one, they never said that we are restricting investment in defense or insurance or retail, nothing. They said you come and start doing business. Whereas what India did, that because we were in short of foreign exchange crisis in 1991, we thought of opening up our stock market, our portfolio investment sector much more rapidly, because stock market is a place where you can attract quick money. Say for example, somebody wants to invest in India. The foreigners would not come and immediately start putting up place or shop in India and they start manufacturing. Every big company would like to assess the economy, the Indian economy, the Indian political system, the laws and regulation in India, and they take considerable time before they settle down and they take a decision whether we want to be in India or not. Because they got many options. If it is India, it could be even Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam. There are many economies where they would like to. So they would look at all the aspects and then only invest. So FDI is a slow process. Whereas stock market is quiet, because I am not interested in holding any management. I am not exposed to any laws and regulations. So I may come and I may sell. So with that intention, since we wanted, our primary focus was garnering foreign exchange, we were very aggressive on opening up our stock market. And China, definitely being a socialist economy, later on they moved gradually towards capitalism. Their stock market is still not as robust as India's. So that was the difference between India and China. And the concept which I wanted you to understand was, what is capital account transaction, what is current account transaction, what is current account deficit. Because when you make a budget, this is a crucial factor, how your economy is going to be impacted by current account deficit. Because if you are huge on current account deficit, Reserve Bank is very cautious when it says that, and still therefore there are many, restrictions. For example, when resident is borrowing a loan from non-resident, under Foreign Exchange Management Act, there are too many restrictions. This is called ECB. You must be aware of this term, external commercial borrowing, ECB, which is called borrowing in foreign currency. Now it is also one of the capital account transaction. Like equity, I could even borrow. But when you go to regulations of ECB, Reserve Bank says that we will not allow any Indian to borrow ECB. In case you are raising borrowing, you will see that it is being deployed for only capital account purposes. In the sense, your capital expenditure in India for expansion of or putting up new machinery, putting up new plant, and there are certain sectors which are not eligible for raising money. And also banks in India are not allowed to raise foreign currency borrowing. Assume for a while, today in Japan it is negative rate of return. You place deposit for 5 years, you pay 0.5%. You don't get interest, you pay. Doesn't look sound, no? Doesn't look sound, but that is the situation. Japan is the costliest economy. Japan is the costliest economy in the world. The Prime Minister of Japan would say, Japanese लोग आप साल में 15 दिन तो देश से बाहर ही रहो. Because if you go out of Japan, entire world is cheaper. Getting me? To stay in Japan is costly. You will find lot of tourists who will be Japanese. You go any place in India and you will find that there will be Japanese tourists. Because the staying in Japan is very, very costly. They encourage that people that you go out, you will be able to save, you will be able to spend. Today if you go to Japan and you ask for vegetable or papad or something, you will go mad what the price you will be paying. So when you come in, that is how it is a reverse situation. So banks in India are not allowed to borrow. If Reserve Bank opens up Indian banks to say that you borrow overseas and you lend to India, that will result into huge inflation, huge amount of inflation. Every bank in India will go and borrow at LIBOR, which is London interest bank rate, which is 0.5%, 1%, 2%. So I'll borrow in foreign currency at 2%, bring it to funds to India and lend at 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. Even if I'm giving to AAA customer, like say for example Reliance or Tata, I'll be able to get at least interest rate of 9 to 10%, 9% or 8%. So there's a clear spread of 8 to 9%, and I can hedge my foreign exchange exposure with whatever mechanism. So understand, but Reserve Bank is not allowing that to happen. If you start doing that, there will be huge flow of money to India. There may not be the kind of sincerity in terms of the lending, and banks may lend to some of the unscrupulous or non-ethical entrepreneurs, which can lead to bubble, asset bubble, which is what in world has happened in US in 2008, where there is no quality of borrowings. And that is why India has been saved so far. Nothing has happened in 2008 crisis because our banking system is absolutely non-corrupt. And Reserve Bank is playing its role, though conservative, but absolutely perfectly to say that ultimately our banking system should not collapse. And that's what we have witnessed. And entire world today, it's heads off to RBI, that the policies are appreciated. I can give you one more example of Lehman Brothers. Before it went bankrupt in 2008, this is the biggest collapse, and from the collapse of Lehman Brothers, one of the very reputed bankers and investment banker, the entire story came out that probably US is collapsing. So that before it collapsed, 6 months just prior to that, they had come to Reserve Bank. They said we want to open a branch in India. They wanted to start banking in India, and Reserve Bank, come what may, they said no, we don't want to allow you. Now they were not sensing all this going to happen, but the Reserve Bank doesn't get impressed by whoever is the name and who we are not concerned. If merit is there, unless it is not required, will not grant you the license. So that is how we have fared so far well. Now, given this background about on current account deficit also we were quite comfortable because in last 6 months oil prices have come down. So our current account deficit was in moderate category. Otherwise, capital account and current account problem will lead to a short-term aberrations in the economy. What happens that if current account deficit is very high, that means against my, say for example, I am importing 100 and I am exporting only 20, right? So 80 is the gap. Now 80 is financed by what? FII flows or FDI flows. Now FII flows can go anytime. So for example, 80 is my deficit, 100 is my import, 20 is my export of goods and services. So import of goods and services is 100, export of goods and services is 20. So 80 is the shortfall. Now 80 is financed out of 60 by FII flows and 20 by FDI flows. Now we all know that FII can sell anytime. They will not listen to, they are not sentimental about India. If they find that I am going to lose money, they may sell, and then index may collapse by 1000, 2000 or 5000 points, they don't bother. They are absolutely ruthless. So they will sell. And then what will happen to dollar rupee exchange rate? We saw one time, from 55 it went to 70, 69 point something. So to protect against such huge volatility, we are seeing that our ratio of current account deficit is in the tolerable limit, and that's what we have been able to achieve. Okay, so let's look at some of the few concepts. Fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit, probably I would know that, I assume that you would be knowing. It is basically, it looks at government expenditure versus government revenue. Now when I say revenue, expenditure is, again here would say both types of expenditure, capital as well as revenue. Now when we are looking at fiscal deficit, don't get confused with capital account transaction, which is in terms of foreign exchange. When I say total expenditure, it includes capital expenditure also and revenue expenditure also. So from government's perspective, what is revenue expenditure? Salaries, pensions and all those subsidies, and which is revenue expenditure. And capex also would be, say for example, creating facilities or whatever assets you create. Now all that put together is your outflow. And employees revenue means including income, taxes, whatever you are collecting, in addition to that dividend, royalties, whatever government is collecting, and also loans and borrowings also. So when it's like a cash flow, total cash flow. And I would say that, against my expenditure, my income is, or my inflows are so much, I am still leaving some gap, which is deficit. So that deficit again is measured vis-a-vis what is the GDP. So gross domestic production. We will not go into the technicalities of how GDP is calculated. Even I am not able to understand, because there are various models and different. And again in this year they have changed the base year from earlier to 2011. But the point is that I leave my gap as it is, and then say that I am like this time they have said that we want it to around, in projected is 3.9. And in 17-18, so financial 15-16, it will be around 3.9 or 3.6, and then they say that it will be 3% of target, which is there, of fiscal deficit, will be achieved by financial year 17 or financial year 18. Now in my view, whenever there is a deficit of fiscal nature, any fiscal deficit, it is not very alarming, neither one should be afraid of, provided we are able to spend that expenditure on generating employment or productive use. If that is being done, then I think any economy will do better. Fiscal deficit is sometimes needed. You need to pump in more money into the economy to propel demand. If you do not pump in more money, then it will not result into cycle, because it has a ripple effect. If I spend 1,000 rupees, that 1,000 rupees has a ripple effect. Say for example, I spent on something, the recipient of the income he gets 1,000, he spends 800 out of it. 800, 600, it is the effect. So that is sometime it is needed, and that's what US has been doing since last 3 years or 4 years. Quantitative easing, as they call it, QE. The US fiscal deficit was as high as 10%. They never bothered. They just were printing notes and supplying in the economies. Not only in US but across the globe. Because US is today the absolute unsung or accepted ruler of the world. US currency is the accepted currency and the most stable currency. So China, when they increase China is today economics, trade surplus country or current account surplus economy. What they do, their foreign exchange is parked in what? US treasury bonds. India, what it does, it is parked in treasury bonds. Of late, in last couple of years back, India started building up gold reserves. Even China started building up gold reserves. They don't park everything in US dollar, because if something goes wrong with US, the currency will lose its value. So on Chinese national television, they used to advertise. They used to tell their citizens that buy gold. In India, में किसको बोलना नहीं पड़ता है. But China, they used to tell people, you buy gold, because they wanted to create gold reserves. Right? So this is fiscal deficit, and which was very bothering in the sense that because of till if you look at the last budgets and other years, we were quite around 4.5 or beyond. It was always 5 and above or up to 4, and the target is 3 is the most ideal. If we can reach a target of 3% of GDP, there is a possibility that we may open up fully on capital accounts. Now what do you mean by fully opening up economy on capital accounts? For example, that some of you after qualifying you would like to go to Singapore, assume and settling down. I am not saying for a tourist purpose as a vacation, but if you are going there, if you go to Singapore, there is no control. There are no controls. Controls in the sense, today if I go in Singapore and I say I want to open a bank account in dollar terms, they say yeah, open. So I will hold in Singapore a dollar account. I say I want to invest out of this money into some software company in US, open. You whatever you want to do, today in India you cannot do. There are rules and regulations. We are fully not opened up. So we have still got FEMA and we have got some controls. But the point is that probably if we reach a target of 3%, there will be a lot of relaxation on capital account controls. Then next is revenue deficit. Now revenue deficit is revenue deficit. Whatever is my income and whatever is my expenditure on revenue account. That is how it will be financed. And that will be financed by naturally borrowings or capital account. That is revenue deficit. And current account deficit we have elaborately understood, which is absolutely related to foreign exchange. First two terms, fiscal and revenue, have everything put together, but current account deficit, when I say it, is absolutely on account of exchange loss or exchange deficit which I have got. And within current account you have got one more terminology which is known as a trade account, trade deficit. Now what is trade deficit? Trade deficit is difference between import of goods and services vis-a-vis export of goods and services. But when I say current account deficit, it also includes certain passive income. For example, Asian Paints have got subsidiaries across the globe. In Africa and all that, many countries, Asian Paints, which is the Indian MNC, you can say Indian multinational corporation, has got subsidiaries in Africa and many other developed nations also. Now when it receives dividend from its subsidiary, it is not on import of goods and services, but it is still a current account transaction. So therefore it is current account deficit. So you have within current account trade deficit and current account deficit. When you say current account deficit, it also includes certain incomes which are in the nature of royalty and dividend, usual, or even technical fees or whatever. So these are the terms and these are the economic indicators which every finance minister would grapple with, try to see that it is in desired control or the way he wants, and thereafter he will pronounce his budget and he would like to channelize the investment the way he wants. That was the background in which this was the best time which India had, in my view, in terms of economic factors favorable. The world commodity prices are absolutely favoring. Amongst all developing nations, probably India is the only shining star today. And that's why you find that stock market is going dizzy heights. Every time you will find that it's still picking up. So India's current account deficit is expected to remain below 1.3% of the GDP. This is an absolutely very good number. Absolutely good number to say that 1.3%. The revenue account deficit is projected to be 2.8%, and in order to achieve fiscal target of 3% in 3 years, that's what I referred to, the government plans to announce a fiscal consolidated roadmap with the aim of reducing fiscal deficit to 4.1 in 15, 3.6 in 16 and 3% in 17. So this is what the projections are. The growth targeted for financial year 16 so far as GDP is concerned is 8 to 8.5% as against 7.4 for the financial year 15, and first time probably the projections, even China says that we won't be able to, as I told you, not double digit growth, but they have projected the growth at around 7%, whereas we are saying probably there is possibility of we may grow at 8 to 8.5. If we can achieve that, definitely it will be a very, very good beginning for the first full year for the Modi government. The agriculture sector is expected to register a growth rate of 1.1% in financial year 15, less by over 2.5% as compared to financial year 14, owing to decline in production level. Now this is a cause of concern in a way, but look at some of the numbers which are absolutely shocking. You would find that India, still we call our economy as agriculture economy, agrarian economy. 60% of the workforce, the population, is involved in agriculture, and the contribution of agriculture to the GDP is only 11%. 60% of the population is producing agriculture produce, whereas contributing only 11%. And that's why the finance minister said in this Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, I don't know, maybe in Rajya Sabha, when he was trying to canvass the new land acquisition bill, he gave this number, and he said that there is an immediate need to shift this workforce from agriculture to industry. And when it can happen, when I allow them to release their land for manufacturing, and it will be for their good benefit, not that we are going to deprive them, but this is what the status is, and let's hope that the land acquisition bill is passed smoothly. The Make in India movement is expected to propel manufacturing industry to grow at 6.7%, whereas it was at 4.5%. And this Make in India is a very good movement, which is again an initiative of this Modi Sarkar, and there are a lot of amendments which have taken place on account of this. And I'll touch upon this Make in India. I'm looking at amendment which has taken place in taxation, income tax. How the policy initiatives on economic factors affect the proposals or amendments in taxation, that one has to understand. Because it is always the driver is the Indian economy, which will force the draftsman or the finance minister to make certain changes in law. For example, when I told you in 1991, we were short of foreign exchange. Now Manish and Kishore would recollect that we had all these income tax benefits for exports. Today also export is not liable to service tax, right? Why it is not liable? Why it is not liable? Because we want to promote export. We are at current account deficit. You got it? If we are on current account surplus, then sir, you place service tax on export also. Today we are short, and all the benefits on exports have started from 91 only. We had section called ATHSC. If you export, you get 100% deduction from profit, pay no tax. All these diamond merchants made huge white money, the real profit, and pay no tax. And from 1991 till 2000 that went on. The benefit of export. If you are software exports, you get benefit under ATHHE. And ATHSC and ATHHE is the most litigation prone area. Most litigation in taxation were on ATHSC in those days. Why we gave this benefit? Because we wanted to attract foreign exchange. And therefore those benefits were given. Some of the areas which government would like to develop, say backward area, and they want to promote, they will provide incentives for taxation, right? So this is how the policy on the sections or the benefit and schemes on taxation will also get driven by where you want to divert or what kind of resources you want to mobilize. So Make in India, let me touch upon this point again, here only. You would recall and you would have read by now that India has reduced, in this budget there is a proposal to reduce withholding tax on import of royalty and fees for technical services from 25% to 10%, right? Right? Now this is because of this, Make in India. You want to promote Make in India, and India is technologically starved country. Today if I want to manufacture some high-tech defense equipment, and I have 51 and 49% joint venture, still the foreign collaborator would say, if you want to pay some import technology, you will have to pay me royalty. Now if you say that you have to pay 25% tax on that, non-resident is not going to bear that tax. Non-resident will say, I am not concerned about your domestic tax laws. If my technology is worth $1 billion, you pay me $1 billion. 25% you bear it. So I actually end up paying much more than that. So my cost would have gone up. It would have been uneconomical, unviable. Import directly would have been beneficial. So to Make in India movement, immediately one would find that the royalty and FTS tax rates have been brought down to 10% from 25%. Right? So this is what the change is. The service sector is expected to grow at 8.4%, and the financial, real estate and professional services is being expected to grow at 13.7%. I couldn't get the corresponding figures, numbers for the previous year, what growth is. But what I understand, even probably India is growing very well in services because there are no regulations and controls. In India, if the software has grown so rapidly and so well, it is just not because of we are all intellectual, we are all genius. I would say all Indians are genius by nature. That's why you will find that any CEO of Fortune 500 or any top management of Fortune 500, you will find Indians. You heard all Warren Buffett, you heard them? Name of Warren Buffett, the ace investor, the world's #1 investor. His right hand man is Ajit Jain. And he is supposed to be more intelligent than him. You name any Fortune 500 company and you will find that Indians are there. So the point is that why we have grown in software, because there were no approvals needed. There were no license needed. Nothing was needed. You want to start, you do it. But if you want to set up a power plant, you acquire land, you go to environment, you go to a farmer, you take this, that, it goes 15-20 years. I am aware of a case where since last 20 years, the power project has still not taken up. The promoters have invested in land, They have done a lot of work, the foreign collaboration, this, that, lot of study, feasibility, blah blah. They, by the time they could arrange all the finance, and as they call it, financial closure was done, the Andhra Pradesh was split into two states, Telangana and this thing. Now half of the land is in one state. The foreign company has been, it is delisted, it has closed its shop. This is the state. I mean, sometimes you feel really frustrated. What is happening? But that is what the fact is. So the service sector is bound to grow because, as I told you, we are all absolutely smart and intelligent. We are genius. I would say we are genius. After Jews and few other community, I would say we are the number best community. Jews, probably, or as they call it, they are more smarter than us. I've seen couple of them in personal interaction. I had a time where we were sitting on one construction project and there was a proposal in India that they wanted to develop a mall in India. So this company from Israel, and it is listed on US Stock Exchange. So this company's business model is quite interesting. They buy property, they develop it, and they lease it out. Moment they get 8 to 9% yield, that is the business. Create property, lease it out, earn 9% yield. If more than that, they will be more happy. But 8 to 9% is the standard target rate, and lease it out. Now the Israeli company was interested in investment in India, and therefore the promoter or the builder who was owning the land, so we were representing the landowner and he was also builder, and it was likely to form a JV. Now there was one advocate from Israel company, only one gentleman. There were other big four firms also representing that firm, from India also, battery of chartered accountants and this and that. And one gentleman who was otherwise advocate, we were drafting joint venture agreement and he came out with this number. But I could see his acumen on numbers and mathematics. I was zapped. We all chartered accountant requiring calculator and all that. He could just visualize that if you clause this amendment and you fix this number, it will have effect in 10th or 12th year and whatnot. So this is absolutely, as they call it, Palestine and Israel. We are some special community on the world. They are intact. So you meet sometimes you have an occasion to work with them, you will experience that. It is really a fantastic community to work with. So service sector is definitely likely to grow in India. Absolutely no chance, because there is no controls. So wherever there is no control, India will grow. Today you say that say for example you say that like government is trying to do that. Modi made and finance minister said that I want to give you a plug and play model for power sector. He says that all preliminary work will be done by us. Land acquisition, environment clearance, everything will be done by us, and then we will open the tender. Now come and do. So you will have to just set up a plant and do that. If we can do it, nothing like that. Because today power is a scarcity in India, and a lot of industries are just absolutely not able to work on full capacity because of power prices. Again, this is consumer price index, which is I think inflation, as they call it, is quite in control as compared to what was prevalent in UPA regime. One would say that it is quite in, and it's back at 5.1%, and wholesale price index is almost kind of negative, as they say it. I mean, we probably, you and me may not be able to get experience of negative inflation, but at least they say it is negative. Reserve Bank has also helped in controlling inflation by not decreasing the rates until bi-monthly monetary of. Now when you say help in controlling inflation by not decreasing the rates, see what happens that if you start reducing rate, repo rate and all that, when RBI lends to banks, or basically when RBI starts lending to banks, it is pushing money into the economy. It is pumping money into the economy, and every money pumped into the economy has a possibility of raising inflation. Because then you get easy money. Easy money leads into more shopping, and probably you will find everything on real estate, and everywhere it is possibility to raise inflation. So we say that RBI has also helped us because they have not increased, they have not decreased the rate, repo rate, which yesterday only they did by 25 basis point, and previously they done. So that is what the point is. And government has also institutionalized a monetary policy framework agreement with RBI with objective of keeping inflation below 6%. This I have already discussed about Jan Dhan Yojana. So this is what is going to have very, very big impact on in the years to come on probably on fast moving consumer goods and other necessity. Probably there will see what is happening today. Mobile and cable television has penetration in the remotest village of India. I have travelled to Indian villages where population is 20 and 25. 20 and 25. I mean, ये एक गाँव हो गया. You are one village. And across 10-15 kilometers there is no other village. So after 15 kilometers there is one more village, population 35, 45. This is in Himachal Pradesh. Again, let me tell you, not very Himachal Pradesh. In north of Himachal, there is a place, and the entire region called Spiti Valley and Laos Spiti Valley. If you travel there, it is similar to, the terrain is similar to Leh Ladakh. But if you travel there, you will find that this is absolutely low density population. But if you go to those villages, 25 people, but they have given. Jethalal malum hai unko. They are fully aware. Now the point is, they have developed aspirations. They are seeing what is happening, which mobile, everything. The aspiration is there. And this aspiration is going to drive demand. The point is, you go to smallest hut in Dharavi or any, wherever you are staying, you will find television is there, and they are hooked on to television. They are hooked on to television. And there is a social, in a way, imbalance also. Because more we spend, and their aspirations are there, their aspirations are not met, it leads to crime. It leads to crime. So there is some kind of social issue also attached to this, but the point is that probably, this is going to drive big demand for commodities, white goods. They will buy fair and lovely. Why you only will buy? We will also buy. That is the demand. So that is what is going to affect. And this is what I was referring to. 6,335 crores have already been transferred to 11.5 crore bank accounts. So this is what, not just 100 rupee, but kind of regular money which will also come, which is going to drive demand, and that will be very good for India. Now I said, that India is in sweet spot, and this slide is absolutely nothing to do with budget, but probably I am envying everybody sitting here, including we three are now, in different age category, we have passed our youth, you can say, but you are in the sweet spot of your life, your career, and being in India. The point is, that India is likely to grow. I'm not very expert on equity or something, but India is likely to grow in the sense of returns in the equity and all that. I just heard an expert saying that probably for next 5-7 years we are likely to grow at 20% CAGR, compounded annual growth rate. There are huge number of predictions going on that by 2030 or 2050 India will be so and so a superpower or third largest or second largest economy and all that. And that's what I want to say. That if you make a simple investment of ₹1,000 rupees also now, start doing it. I don't know your age profile, but you may be in 18, 20, whatever. And look at, you start at 18 until 45. And if you start investing at 30, even if you start with 5,000, you will not be able to make the compounding impact. I'm just calculating an yield of 16%. If you make it 18, it will be huge number. And if you make it 20, it will be huge impact. If you start even savings, whatever you can, simple SIPs, of large capital in mutual fund, without disturbing your studies, because that is the primary goal, and just big investment. Probably there will be ups and downs in the market, but you are, as if this money is not earned by you. This money does not belong to you. This is a kind of spare money, pocket in way. And then try to monitor the way businesses are growing. And there is a very subtle way of making big money out of investments. Especially when you look at from experience, I would say that there are certain products. Many times we don't realize that who is making this product. For example, I think which is the famous brand of pizza? No, other one? Huh? Domino's. Which is the company which owns Domino's? उसका माँ बाप का तो नाम मालूम होना चाहिए ना मुझे भी नहीं मालूम था, इसीलिए मैंने वो शेयर नहीं लिया. Jubilant, yes. If I had known that this Jubilant is manufacturing this brand, and I am seeing every day and night that you people are just spending pocket money over there, I should have immediately bought that share, isn't it? So simple, no? That this business is thriving. Moment new shop is opened, there is a queue. So this is the common sense which you have to apply. It doesn't require very great science and great expert. What you have to find out is which is the growing business. Say for example, there is an app called ClickBuzz. Who owns this ClickBuzz? Even I don't know. But the point is that there is some possibility. See, e-commerce is growing, people are spending, you all are spending on e-commerce. I mean, before buying anything, you will first check price on Google, I mean through Flipkart or whatever. And thereafter you will make your decision. So the way e-commerce is growing, there should be some industry. Let's find out which company, what is new, then look at their management profile and whatnot. And that is, I am saying, a small common sense to apply to companies which will be very good to invest. I can give you one example of one of my friend. A day before yesterday only we were talking. He had invested 4,000 rupees in Ajanta Pharma. And those shares were at that time, it is a story of 20 years, so maybe 95 or whatever, I don't, maybe not 20 but 15 years at least. And those shares he had applied 1,000 rupees each in his family's name. So 400 certificates, 400 shares were allotted to them. And those shares were held in physical form, and this gentleman forgot that he is owning these shares. 6 months back, when he saw that dividend warrant, he said that these 400 shares are now become 1200 because company had issued bonuses in between, and he was wondering, it become 1200, so let me see what is the price. The price today is 3,000 rupees. 4,000 has grown into 36 lakhs. 36 lakhs. This is the possibility, and that's what is going to happen. That's what is going to happen. You have to just stay invested, find out common sense good companies, and if you are not able to do that, the point which I am trying to say is that you are in the absolutely best time of economy. Nothing is going to deter from this. There will be small ups and downs. There could be Rajiv Gandhi coming up and he talking nonsense, and then you will be making some jokes on WhatsApp and things like that happen. But the point what I am trying is that probably we are going to grow from here. And if you want to make decent wealth, do it. But not at the cost of study. Again, because this is students forum, I would not like to say that I am taking away from your student, because all these big investors are all chartered accountants. Be it Rakesh Jhunjhunwala or be it Nilesh Shah, the head of Kotak, who is a gold medalist, who is a chartered accountant. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the ace investor, is a chartered accountant, and there are a lot of chartered accountants who are. So the point is that you have to look at this thing, and when you are looking at budget, taxation is one aspect. Other things are one aspect, but how business, how economy is going, what kind of, you have to just apply common sense and see that what kind of impact it will have, and then try to buy. When the oil prices started coming down, there is a company called Relaxo Footwear. I think it is making a footwear, Relaxo. Because for them, footwear companies, the raw material is something related to oil. Because moment oil prices coming down, their cost of production went down. The share prices within 3 months went up from 200 to 600. So it is a temporary phenomenon, but point is that this kind of application of mind is needed to find out first what the good business is, then look at what is the quality of management. There are people who are just trying to take away money from investor and don't give in reward. So we have to be very, very clear with that. If you are not able to do that, do only systematic investment plan, that is SIP of good. HDFC is a very good bank, HDFC mutual fund, or whatever. Take advice from your seniors or your expert or your wealth manager and start investing smallest amount, because you can start even with 100 rupees, and that fund will be amazing. When when the wealth will grow after 15-20 years, you can make your own financial goals. You can make your own financial goals in the sense that probably after qualifying, today the trend is that everybody wants to get experience and go into the big four or in industry. But a time will come in your life when you find that I want to be on my own. I want to do something on my own. I want to be independent, be in practice or consulting or wherever. And at that point of time, if you have this huge capital at your back to support you, you will be in a position, you will have some financial liberty to take your own decisions. And that's what I am, saying that, this is what you should do. Make your financial discipline and do something on this. Now we come to these are some of the social security schemes which is announced in budget. You all know about 2 lakh rupees personal accident insurance which is given to them for payment of just 12 rupees per month, 1 rupee, and every individual can have 2 lakh rupees of personal accident, and then even insurance also at 330 rupees of all this system. Now touch upon some of the tax proposals. What I am going to do is I am not going to get into every tax proposals, but whatever I feel something noteworthy which I have captured, and I'll have some detailed discussion on that, and even on conceptual level, like what we discuss about economic aspects. So these are the 5 pillars of which is targeted in this time. Dealing with the problem of black money and measures to curb black money, job creation through Make in India, minimum government and maximum governance to improve ease of doing business. Of course, on ease of doing business is the only thing where still one would find that the bureaucratic approach is not changing. There are many amendments in even this finance bill which really create more compliance burden, where the powers are unnecessarily expanded for income tax officers, where you find that this is going to result into more harassment, and therefore one really gets slightly disappointed that ease of doing business is nowhere near, or there is some kind of problem. Of course, there are some changes which have happened. Say for example, self-attestation. Every time when you have to go to notary and all that, there is a movement to say that now self-attestation in many of the government departments would be sufficient. You don't have to get to notarize or get it certified from some government officer of grade 1 or whatever. So this is what is happening, but on taxation front there is some definitely improvement still needed. Benefits to middle class taxpayers by increasing the deductions available under Chapter 6A, improving the quality of life and public health through Swachh Bharat initiatives. The implementation of DTC has been amended as most of the provisions of DTC have already been included in Income Tax Act. So Direct Tax Code, which was the baby of UPA government, and whatever be it ego issue or whatever you call it, I'll not touch upon what you created. I'll have my own something. So maybe that is prevailing or whatever you call it. Applicability of GAI has been deferred for further 2 years. So general anti-awareness rules have been deferred, but it would have been better if it was still deferred for more than 2 years, because I would say that any foreigner coming to India or any tax planning when you are doing, it doesn't get settled in 2 years. For example, the power plant. Lakshmi Mittal, he wanted to set up a power plant in power or coal plant, steel manufacturing plant in Orissa, POSCO I think, and they could not acquire land. Everything has gone for a toss, and ultimately they have withdrawing it. Now on the top of it, when they had floated a company and then pumped in some money into the company, they had parked this money with bank because it was not needed, because you had to set up a plant. So those bank FDs have resulted in some interest income. Now tax department is saying interest income is income from other source, and whatever expenditure you incurred on setting up a plant, you can't set it up, so pay tax on that. So these are the type of things which are happening. So this is what. So GARS, I would say it would have been really better if it was deferred for more than 2 years. No changes have been proposed in rates of taxes. For this year there are no changes. Of course, for corporate tax, as we have announced that it will be 25% spread over the next 4 years. Wealth tax has been abolished, which is a very good move, and has been replaced with 2% kind of surcharge. Sukanya, we all know, deposit, Mediclaim, and I will not go into these details. Quoting of PAN has become mandatory for purchases or sale of 10 lakhs. Domestic transfer pricing limit raised to 20 crore. Accepting or paying an advance of 20,000 or more in cash for any purchase of immovable property is now prohibited. So what used to happen, especially for acquisition of land, if you look at how these all big land deals are taking place. For example, there is a reputed builder. Just for the sake of reference, I may take name of Rahejas, Hiranandani or whoever Tata is. Now when they acquire 102 acre chunk of land, it is not that they are directly going back land. Moment they say that I want to acquire this land, the prices of land will go up. The seller would say, no, if you are coming, then I will raise it. So there are always a middleman, there are who will anonymously represent these big builders and big developers, and they go and accumulate lands in small parcels. Now they make a lot of time cash payment. So that is what they want to plug, that will, even for purchase of land, you can't make 20,000 rupees payment, because there is a decision of Gujarat High Court, I am not able to recollect, where it is held that 269 SS and T, the provision of penalty about accepting loan 20 or deposit in excess of 20,000 will not apply for purchase of land, because it is purchase of land. So to overcome that decision also, and to curb the process of black money, because real estate is the only sector which absorbs all black money. So whatever is black money, it easily gets absorbed in real estate sector. Other is diamond. The diamond prices are also probably it's going up, because you can store crores and crores of rupees in small packet. If few diamonds and it will, enable you to store. So that is what is happening. So CSR also we are showing Swachh Bharat Kosh. So this is a small amendment. Cooperative bank TDS has been made applicable. Otherwise, cooperative bank, when they used to make payment to their members, what used to happen that you buy one share of a cooperative bank and place deposit. So I become member, and there are provisions to say that if it is deposit from member, it will not be liable to withholding tax. And lot of again unaccounted money is lying here. Lot of unaccounted money, black money, in the form that this interest is not being offered to taxation. That possibility is there, and therefore to bring it out, they have amended the law, and rightfully so, to say that irrespective of you are member or not, it will be liable to TDS, withholding tax. The rate of TDS on royalty and fees for technical services, which I already referred to, this has been brought from 25% to 10%. So now whenever you are making remittance from April onwards, it will be 10%. Any questions you have on this?
Sir, as per the provision, the rate is reduced from 25% to 10%, but as per provision of many double tax order, it is already 10%.
Good. Yeah. So that's a very good point. What he says is absolutely right. So under section 90 or 90A and 90 and 90A, if you look at Income Tax Act 1990A, the taxpayer has a choice. If there is a double tax avoidance agreement with a treaty country, you can either be governed by the domestic tax rates or the treaty tax rate, right? So based on that, if treaty is more beneficial, I'll go by treaty rate. And another advantage would be that even if both are at parity, say for example, here is also 10% and treaty is also giving me 10%, but I will still prefer to be going by treaty. Why? Because if I adopt a treaty rate, I will not be liable to add surcharge and education cess, which here I will have to. Because treaty rate would say it is, and if you go to the definition of rates in force, then you will find that treaty rate is the final rate. You need not add the treaty rate with surcharge and education cess, which probably if I am adopting 10%, I will have to add. So it will always be better that I adopt treaty rate. But for adopting treaty, what is needed? What is needed from TRC? So you need to have tax residency certificate. If you do not have tax residency certificate of the non-resident recipient of income, one should not, allow them to access treaty, because it has become mandatory and therefore it is utmost necessary. So even if you are issuing a certificate of remittance, one has to see that you have received TRC.
Sir, one more thing. If the non-resident does not have a PAN, will the rate be 20% or it will be 10%?
Yeah, if it is doesn't have PAN, then in my view it will be 20%.
Okay, and that will also be liable to surcharge?
Then it will be liable. So if I have TRC, then I will go by, if it is exempt income, then I will go by TRC. If there is no, because of treaty, I am falling in exempt category because of treaty. For example, treaty has on fees for technical services, it has a make available concept. And because of that, my fees for technical services, which is otherwise liable under Income Tax Act, but it is getting exempt on account of treaty, then you don't have to pay. It is absolutely exempt. TRC is there and you are taking it as exempt.
But I have the client is a TRC but does not have a PAN. So
Then I think it will be 20%. 20%. Now let's discuss some of these provisions in detail, because 6 proviso to subsection 1 of section 6 has been inserted, stating that the provisions for determining the period or periods of stay in India of a member of the crew of foreign bound ship leaving India shall be determined. So if you look at section 6 when determining residence of individual and the condition of 60 and 365, where 60 becomes 180 on account of person living for employment or as a crew member. Now when you crew member of the ship, what was given was that it is an India bound ship or company owned by India, or ship is owned Indian management, whereas now they are saying that if you are a foreign bound ship also you will be entitled, but rules will be announced or exact duration will be given later on. That is one amendment. The most important amendment from cross-border transaction perspective and even from international taxation perspective is the 6.3, that for determining the residence of a company, the concept of control and management has been replaced with the concept of not point of but place of effective management. So place of effective management, as they call it, POEM. Now if you look at present definition, what it says that a company, I am looking at foreign company or overseas company, a company would be regarded as a resident of India if its control and management of its affairs is situated wholly in India. This is the present definition. So what you are trying to say, control and management of its affairs. Now, unfortunately, the word control was always equated with ownership control. That means, say for example, ABC Private Limited India is incorporating a company in Singapore, say ABC PTE Limited, Private Limited, ABC PTE Limited, Private Limited, and entire shares, it is a wholly owned subsidiary, 100% owned subsidiary, so entire shares are held by ABC India Private Limited. And therefore, many times, department used to take a view that shareholding is in India, it's a wholly owned subsidiary. Again, board of directors are all Indian. Say for example, all board members are Indian. So therefore, its control is wholly situated in India, and it becomes foreign company or Singapore company becomes resident company and liable to tax in India. So that view was held, and there was one decision also in case of Radharani Holdings. I don't know the citation, but where it has been held that in that case the subsidiary, or not even the subsidiary, but the entire, say for there are two situations. One is that you have a wholly owned subsidiary, or Indian promoter, the same promoters who are owning Indian company are also owning shares of foreign company, or they promoted a company but all shares are held in India. All individuals who are resident in India are holding shares of foreign company. In that case, in Radharani Holdings, only one, not even 1%, but few shares were held by the non-residents. So court gave a rule that entire control is not in India, and it was not treated as, it was out of 613 to say that it is not Indian company. Now they are trying to replace this concept by saying that place of effective management has to be in India, POEM has to be in India. What do you mean by place of effective management? Is that now we are deviating from control and management, but control and management to POEM. So POEM is a term which is also available in treaty. If you look at most of the articles on shipping under the Income Double Tax Avoidance Agreement on shipping profits or air transport profit, you will find that it is defining the term place of effective management. Even in the treaty, when you look at resident articles, it will define POEM. So the concept is that where the head and brain of the company is sitting. Where is the head and brain of the company? The head and brain of the company is board member. So shareholders under the Companies Act also, or for that matter any corporate law in the world, you will find that shareholders have ownership control but not managerial control. Today, if I am a shareholder of Colgate-Palmolive Limited, I can't sit on the board. I can attend AGM, I can raise my voice, but I don't have any say in management. To have say in management, I have to be a board member. And that's what the concept is now even brought to Indian Income Tax Act, to say that it will be replaced by POEM. So unless place of effective management is in India, now how do you establish place of effective management? Say for example, what example I gave about ABC Private Limited and ABC PTE Limited, even though it could be 100% shares are owned by, say for example, three gentlemen A, B and C. They are holding Indian company also and they are holding Singapore company also in their individual capacity. They are the directors. Now Singapore also has a law which says that one of the directors should be resident in Singapore. So professionally you have one more director by the name, say for example D. But majority of directors are in India. Shareholders are in India. But if these shareholders, if these directors are attending board meetings which are taking place in Singapore and all key decisions are decided there, then one would say that the place of effective management is also there. And to further give impetus to this concept that place of effective management is in Singapore, the CEO, the key managerial personnel, he also preferably should be resident of Singapore. For example, if CEO is also of Singapore and the Indian members are traveling to Singapore to attend board meetings, it would establish that you have gone there, you have attended board meetings, decisions are taken there, and therefore the place of effective management is in Singapore. Even though full ownership is in India, even though directors are resident of India, still it will not be regarded as Indian company. That is the concept of POEM. Then you have uncertainty over the term substantial in explanation 5 of section 911 has been clarified by insertion of explanation 6. Now this is where Vodafone controversy, when Hutchison SR sold its business through sale of shares of overseas company and entire controversy emerged. You are all aware of Vodafone, right? Somebody has sold the shares in Cayman Island. Where is Cayman Island? I don't know. But the company was there in Cayman Island which was having only one share. Share capital only one share, nothing else. So share capitals and investment, and that one share when we transferred, it had a chain effect of transferring entire business of Orange, or I think which was the company? Hutchison SR. Hutch was acquired by SR. And what happened that this was a transfer of shares in foreign country, and business was acquired in India, and this executive or the CEO of Vodafone made an announcement that we have acquired business in India, we have acquired this, there are a lot of announcements, the change in the advertisement pattern, and even first to create awareness that Hutch is now Vodafone, Hutch is Vodafone, all that was done. So Indian Tax Department said that you have not acquired shares over there, you actually transferred business in India, and therefore this business is a capital asset and which is liable to capital gains. With that controversy, whatever demand was raised, and it went on till I think 10,000 crore, that huge amount was raised on Vodafone to say that you are liable to capital gains tax in India, because under section 911, which says that income deemed to accrue or arise in India, if any capital gain is resulting from transfer of a capital asset situated in India, it will amount to liable to tax in India, right? So the point was that now when the argument was taken in the court of law and in Supreme Court, the argument which was made by the counsel of Vodafone, he said that what we have done is we have transferred the shares, and you are right that there is also transfer of business. We don't deny the fact, but share is a bundle of right. Shares, equity shares, is a bundle of right. You can't segregate one right. A share, by owning a share, I even get a right to attend board meeting. I even have a right to replace board of director, because if I am holding substantial shares, even I can replace board member, right? So share is a bundle of right, and you can't segregate one of the right, which is transfer.